Listen, if any of your friends ever tell you that soccer or football is boring, tell them to watch this game because it was insane the entire time. There was a ton of good things, a lot of weird bad things, and so a lot of things to talk about nonetheless. So let's get into a little review of this match. What happened? Who are we proud of? Who are we less proud of? And what can we take from it going forward with all these boys doing well and not well? Number one, I saw two of the best goals I've seen in a very long time from Dani Olmo and Pedri and Marc Casado there. That was incredible football from those guys, and it was. If you haven't watched this, click off of this video now. Go watch the highlights that are going to be posted on ESPN. They'll be up. It's ridiculous. I wish I could show them. It's pure, beautiful football, especially the goal from Marc Casado to Pedri. Beautiful football, boys. And that's coming from our team that has been less than beautiful over the past couple of years. The entire first 70 minutes of this match, I was so incredibly honored to watch Barcelona play and just thankful that I'm able to live in a moment where they're playing like this, because it's been a very long moment since we've seen something like this. But it evolved going into the match a little bit there. I'll get into that with the player reviews and everything, but it got weird. I think the ref did an okay job. I think some of the calls were, you could argue questionable, you could argue not questionable. And there was also a penalty called for Girona that was overturned by VAR that I'm going to explain before I get into the player reviews. And it's basically this. When a ball, it's a similar rule to how if a ball hits the chest of a player and then it deflects off the chest of that player into their arm, or any body part into their arm, it's not a penalty, or it's not a handball penalty in the box. For whatever reason, I think it's a fair call because it's usually in a situation where the player didn't rob the other team of anything substantial, and that's kind of what happened here. The ball was headed off from Balde into the arm of Inigo Martinez, and now the ball was kind of heading towards the goal, or heading towards the net, but it was going to go away from the net, and it was going to go just wide of it, and it also wasn't going toward any Girona player, so it would have been easy to handle by Ter Stegen. And so I think the rule is, if it bounces off one player to the other player on the same team, it's not going to be a handball, and it wasn't today. Is that fair? You can argue not. I think that's just the rule, so that is just how it's going to be called. There was something like that called against, I think, Ansu Fati in the Inter Milan game 2 years ago that helped us not get past Inter Milan and not get into the Champions League quarter or knockout stages. Something similar to that, and so it is what it is. It happens for us, against us. It's the rule now, so it wasn't a pen. Madrid fans are going to be upset about that. Real Madrid TV is probably going to talk about it, but whatever. That's the rule. Let's get into the player ratings. We'll get into the greatness of this game and then the weirdness of the game going forward a little bit later as well when I get to those players. For one, Ter Stegen, I don't think he had a good game. I think that the only goal scored by Girona was a mistake from Ter Stegen. I think if you're going to come out, you put everything into coming out and you win that ball, or you don't come out at all. He came out of the goal, tried to meet his man. The guy beat him, got around him, and passed the ball over to Stuani, who had a relatively easy job getting it past Koundé. I'm going to give him like a 5.5 just because I think he was decent with his distribution today. Otherwise, I think there were other times where he then didn't come out of the goal after that probably should have. As the game went on, Girona definitely tried to exploit the higher line of Barcelona and tried to play him behind, and it kind of worked. I think they did a good job of playing them off sides and everything, but Ter Stegen didn't look super comfortable today, and he doesn't deserve a good rating for it. What did I give him? A 5.5? I think that's probably fair considering he conceded the goal. It's probably his fault there. Then moving to the back line, though, the things really changed. I think everybody had a really, really good game. Koundé, probably the worst. No, I think he had a really good game. Yeah, I think Koundé was like an 8, probably a 7. I'll give him a 7.5 just because I think other defenders were better. 7.5 I think is fair. I think he did a decent job not linking up necessarily well with Lamine, but linking his pressure up with Lamine well. He did a good job pushing very far up at times, making them lose the ball in combination with Lamine, leading to some attacks, and that's really good. That's what I want to see from my fullback. Another really good performance from Koundé, continuing this trend of incredible performances from him, probably the most informed right back in the world. Kubarsi wasn't needed very often, but when he was there, he was there. He had a couple really good sliding tackle interventions in the first half, only played a little bit in the second half. Really good game. Also, for Koundé, he did make that assist over to Dani Olmo for Dani Olmo's insane finish. So, a lot of credit goes to Koundé for that. I'm going to make him an 8 for that. Kubarsi, though, good when he was needed. No complaints, 7.5, fair. I think it's reasonable. Inigo Martinez, though, I'm going to give him an 8 because I think he was really good when he was needed. Obviously, the ball hit his hand and we can criticize him for that, but it didn't come to anything bad. So all in all, really good performance from Inigo. He is aggressive when he needed to be, was fine on the ball, did what he needed to do. I think an 8 is very fair for his performance, and the same goes for Balde. I'm going to give him a little bit less. I'm going to give him like a 7.7. I usually don't do half ratings like that, but for Balde, I was seeing a little bit more from him going forward than we have seen. I don't think his crosses were great, but I think he was beating his man a little bit better. And then in the second half, they moved him up the pitch when I think it was it Sergio Dominguez or Gerard Martin came in. Balde played further forward. He played as like a left winger, and he looked okay. He was inverting pretty well with Pau Victor and rotating with him pretty well in an interesting way that I hope to see more from him going forward. Good performance from him today. And then there's the midfield. My boy Pedri, man, fantastic. That goal was beautiful that he scored, and he just linked up really well. He gave the ball away a couple times, but no, he was really good. I'm going to give him an 8.5. I'm going to give him a 9. I was just so happy with that goal. It was so good to watch, man. Pedri's so good at football. And then he came off, too, in the 70th minute. Man, it's like my birthday. It doesn't get much better than that. He didn't get overplayed. And Marc Casado, really good game from him. Played the full 90, did his job the whole time, intervened pretty well the whole time. I'm going to give him an 8.5. I'll give him an 8.5 just for that pass to Pedri. Beautifully timed. What vision. Incredible. I would have expected it to be from Pedri. That's how good it was. Really, really well done. And he was fine defensively, pretty solid defensively, actually. Lamine Yamal, now our star boy, got a brace today. Great from him. I'm going to give him a 9.5 for the brace. I think he is the man of the match because he scored those first 2 goals, the most important goals, and he helped the team win, get on the scoreboard after a lot of time of trying to get back into a rhythm after the international break and against Girona. That makes sense. I understand that. But Lamine helps them get onto the scoreboard. And I think without him there, they could have had a much more difficult time actually breaking through, as we saw a lot from them last season. For that reason, he deserves the man of the match. I think he scored really good goals. He had really good finishes on those goals, but he could have been even better. It was interesting. We didn't see a ton of him play great balls in. There were a couple instances where he got into good positions to play, that little chip cross in like he usually does on his left or something similar on his right, but he didn't get it off. Not that he had a bad game. I'm just looking at his game. I'm not critiquing him. I'm not, criticizing him for his game. I'm just looking at it objectively, and it looked like we could see even more from him. If he had more opportunities to dribble at players and break guys down. I think Girona kind of sat back a little bit today or didn't give them a ton of space, so he didn't have a ton of options to do that. But obviously still coming out of this game with a 9.5, a 2-goal brace, second brace, I think, of his career. First one was last season in February against Granada. Good job from Lamine today. I don't want it to be taken, I've seen comments saying that I'm not positive enough before. I'm just looking at his game. I'm just trying to understand how he played overall his entire game and see where we might not expect more from him or just see more from him in the future. I'm not trying to be negative, and this is probably going to be taken negatively, but I think it's reasonable to say. I really like how Dani Olmo, Lamine, and Pedri specifically, and Rafinha at times too, just link up around the top of the box. Dani Olmo is so good at it, and that goal, that finish is insane. Great touch on that ball from Koundé, great running behind, incredible job at such a weird angle on I think it was his left foot. Incredible job from Dani Olmo today. I'm going to give him an 8. I don't think he played. I think an 8 is fair, all things considered. Looking at the other performances from the other guys, I think an 8 is pretty fair. Lewandowski, maybe less so, but we'll get into him after. Rafinha had less good of a game today than I think he has been having, but I'm still going to give him a 7.5. I think he contributed well defensively. He worked really hard on his running, and he's able to play so many different positions for the side. You see him rotating centrally, looking like a striker at times, and he was even playing as a right back at sometimes, helping Koundé defend. He is all over the pitch. His heat map is crazy, and he's an invaluable asset to this team, and I'm excited to see what happens in the future. Hopefully, we're able to keep everybody healthy. With Ansu coming back, so he can take minutes from some of these guys. It's looking good. Robert Lewandowski, I think he was okay in the build-up. He was fine. He's been better. He's also been a lot worse. Spent less time on the ground than he did last season. And he did a fine job actually helping the team work the ball around. Didn't score, missed a really big, easy, you could argue, chance where Gatsa just stood up right in front of him and he tried to chip him. It didn't work. But fine game. He's going to be upset about it because he didn't score, but I think a 7 is probably a little... I'll give him a 6.5 just because of that finish. It was bad. I think that's probably fair. The real things happened when the subs came on and when changes came to be made, not only for Barcelona, because changes did get made for Barca, but I think Girona made some key changes here that exploited the way Barca played a little bit and maybe not pointed some fingers, but showed signs of how other teams may choose to play against Barcelona going in the future. And it's really just trying to exploit that high line, playing behind, make those runs in. It was really hard for Girona, which is interesting because it was something Girona was very good at last season. But they did a pretty good job of keeping them off sides and playing them off sides at times. Maybe they were a little desperate too, so it was a little bit easier. But that is probably how good teams, like if Real Madrid were to play Barca, how they would try and get past it. Just making a ton of runs in behind, trying to break down that high line and open up spaces, somehow get onside and score that way. Cubarsí came off. It changed a little bit the way that dynamic worked. Eric Garcia came on into the middle, who I think was fine today. Eric Garcia was... I'm going to give him a 6.5. I think he did his job. He had one instance where he was really far forward, tried to put a cross in, it didn't find his man. But he played a fine game. Then actually Hector Fort came on for Cubarsí, switching Koundé to center back. And I think that changed it up a little bit, but I think, again, it was more of Girona's tactics than anything else. And Fort was pretty good. I think he put a couple crunching tackles in there, but he did a fine job. Again, I'm going to give him a 6.5 as well. Did his job as a substitute. Looked pretty fine on the right, and which is good for him because he hasn't gotten a ton of minutes on the right either. So I'd like to see him get more minutes. Just like I've said before about Pau Vitor, which is our next guy up, who had a fine game as well. I think he missed a couple chances that we can ask questions of him there. So I'm going to give him a 6, but he got into those positions. He was able to run for the ball and fight for it. He did some good rotations with Rafinha, and I like the idea of him out wide more than Lewandowski. So if we're going to have a striker who moves around and rotates as much as Hansi Flick strikers seem to be doing for Barcelona, I'd rather Victor be doing it than Lewandowski, at least the out wide part. If it comes to the finishing part, I'd rather have Lewandowski there still. But then Ferran Torres came on, and he got a red card after 15 minutes of being on the pitch. So it was I'm not going to say it was a questionable call. I think the straight red, basically Ferran Torres was like losing control of his body, stuck his foot out, and landed his studs up on top of the foot of, I think it was number 10 for Girona, who also had a really good game. He looked really good. And he got a straight red for it. It was a studs up tackle, but it was on his foot, so it wasn't as bad as like a studs up to the ankle or something like that. It was far up his foot. I'll give him that, but I don't think it was that bad of a tackle. I don't think it's the worst red card I've ever seen. It probably could have been a hard yellow. It also could have been a red. So it's one of those you could complain about, but you could also whatever. It's really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. They pulled the game out after it, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? It sours the taste of the match, but it's not terrible. And Ferran Torres knew it too. Afterwards, you see his face, and he's like, he feels bad for the tackle. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. There's no bad intent in that, and I think that's the important part too here. Not a good performance from Ferran. I'm going to give him a 4. You can't get a red card after 15 minutes of coming on. It's not good. You're not going to get a good rating for that. And I think before that, I don't remember anything great coming from him. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe he did something magical. I don't think he did. And that comes to Gerard Martin, who came on in the last few minutes, basically just to put Balde further up the pitch to allow Lamine to come off, because Lamine did grab a yellow for getting angry with Porto. I think Porto put in a late foul on him, and Lamine stood up for himself, but whatever. They don't want players talking to other players. It is what it is. I just want to see the same thing happen to Vinny Jr. when he goes into other players' faces. Give him yellow cards too then. If that's going to happen to Lamine, I want to see it happen to Vinny too. And sometimes it does, to be fair, but it wasn't like he didn't push him or whatever. Gerard Martin did fine. The game devolved, and I think that'll sour our taste a little bit. overall, insane game. Great finishes. Really good performance from the boys overall, and I'm happy with the way they did. I'm excited for the rest of this season. 5 wins in 5 matches. I'm going to be live on Tifo for the Champions League match on Thursday. Link will be in the description. Obviously, it's free to join. There's no ads or anything, and I bring some viewers up at halftime so we can talk about the match, and I can analyze it with you guys the same way they used to do. We see Kate Abdo do with Thierry Henry and all the boys for the Champions League. So I'm going to be doing that on chat with chat. And so if you guys want to join, go to Tifo, code ROLU. Everything will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Visca Barça. This game was pretty cool to watch. It was a little chaotic at times, but it was still good to watch. And yeah, I'll see you guys all on Thursday or Friday. And video will probably be up later than that, around this weekend or something. But I'll see you guys later. Peace.